Everybody. I will call this meeting to order at 10:36 a.m. We'll begin with a territorial acknowledgement. So pursuant to Federation Policy 50, Indigenous Engagement and Inclusivity, Federation of Students acknowledges the University of Waterloo is on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. The University of Waterloo is situated on the Haldimand Tract, land promised to the Six Nations, which includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. We'll move on to the ratification of society and pro tem designates. So pursuant to policy 55, society presidents and designates on council, the selection of a designate or appointment of a pro tempore counselor to fill a temporary vacancy by a constituent society must be ratified by students' council at a regular first meeting following such selection. Ratification may not unreasonably be withheld by council. We'll begin. Whereas the president of the Mathematics Society currently holds an at-large seat, a counselor seat on council, then be it resolved that council ratifies their designate for the mathematics constituency for the fall 2020 term as selected by the president of the Mathematics Society. Matthew, would you be able to fill the blank for us?
Yes, I've got designate here, Harleen Bendall.
Can you spell that out for me?
I can spell it. HARLEENBHANDAL.
HARLEEN, and then last name BHANDAL.
Perfect.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll read it again with the blank filled. Whereas the president of the Mathematics Society currently holds an at-large seat on council, then be it resolved that council ratifies Harleen Bendall as a designate for the mathematics constituency for the fall 2020 term as selected by the president of the Mathematics Society. Are there any in opposition, or can I get a seconder? I'll take Matthew as the mover. Can I get a seconder?
A second.
Thank you, John. Are there any opposed to this motion? Any in abstention? Great, motion passes. We'll move on to be it resolved that council ratifies Matthew Casale as NSOC B representative for the engineering constituency. Can I get a seconder?
A second.
Thanks, John. Are there any in opposition to this motion?
Abby, we have a point of information from Edward.
Oh, sure, Edward, go ahead.
Hi, I'm wondering if this is necessary because Matthew Casale is actually the president of B Society, and according to Council Procedure 23, a seat for the off-term president is automatically reserved among the engineering counselors. So I'm wondering if this is even required.
Oh.
I think we're just ratifying the that they have filled that seat. Although I don't see us doing that for math, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think Edward has a really good point. We'll strike this motion.
Sorry, Abby, I don't have the procedure up in front of me, but for historical context, I believe we did this every time last year, and the reason we're not doing it for math is because Matthew is retaining his seat, and we did ratify the new person for math.
That's why, Megan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everybody for your words. John, can I still take you as the seconder?
Yes.
Great. All those in opposition to this motion? Any abstention? Okay, it passes. Welcome, Harleen and Matthew, to council. We'll move on to approval of the agenda. Be it resolved that council approves the agenda as presented. Are there any amendments that need to be made to the agenda?
Yes.
Go ahead, John.
So I move that item 4.5.2 be amended to the following text. It is the first reading of Policy X, Editorial Independence and Codes of Ethics for Student Publications, Appendix D.
John, you're moving that this be amended?
Yes.
I need a seconder. Thank you, Matthew. All those opposed to the amendment? All those in abstention? Great. Thanks, everyone. That motion, so the agenda is amended to read in item 4.5.2, the first reading of Policy X, Editorial Independence and Codes of Ethics for Student Publications. There was one other amendment that came through the speaker email. The date for the next meeting says September 13th in the SLC MPR. That should be amended to say October 4th on Microsoft Teams. So, John, I'm not sure if we can just change that or if I need to motion to have it changed.
All versions of the agenda, except for the ones in email attachments, now say October 4th or 14th?
4th.
Good, 4th. They say October
Great.
4th.
Then never mind. Thanks, John. Were there any other amendments that need to be made to the agenda? Great. So I'll assume the motion to adopt the agenda as amended, and we'll move on to approval of the minutes. There are no minutes for approval at this time. We'll move on, since there's no consent agenda, we'll move on to reports. So we'll begin with the executive reports. Just a reminder to all those at large and any new counselors, the executive will highlight key aspects of their written report and an oral report that lasts no longer than 2 minutes and will be followed by a question period lasting no longer than 10 minutes per executive. All written reports, if you are looking at the links that have been provided to you in the chat, can be found in Appendix A. I guess I'll begin with the report of the president. So if you look in my attached report, I go over some information about the actions we've taken since the August special meeting. And at the last meeting, we reviewed a memorandum with some action items for the executive and for the organization. I provided a little bit of an update on our next steps and actions that have been taken so far. As we are only a few weeks away from the last meeting and I was on vacation last week, you'll notice that a lot of the work that needs to be done will be occurring this week and next week. So there aren't a lot of major updates there. The Policies and Procedures Committee is working on the editorial independence policy, which you'll see for first reading. We'll be taking all of your notes and continuing consultation with constituency student papers to bring a final version of that policy to you in October. Today, you'll be hearing a presentation from myself on the Strategic and Long Range Plan from the Strategic and Long Range Plan Committee to go over some of our key elements and strategic directions that we've drafted so far. We'll also be looking at some things from the Committee of Presidents, and I will also update that we have hired a Chief Returning Officer, Elizabeth Schur, and we'll be doing interviews for the Electoral and Referendums Officer on Monday afternoon and hiring the ERO by Wednesday. Are there any questions? Oh, I guess I'll also say I've also attached in my report the services review that will be taken to CLAC and IUC. Are there any questions for my report? Hearing none, we'll move on to the report of the Vice President Education.
Good morning. Give me one moment while I finish chewing this piece of apple. Okay, so not too much in my report as there hasn't been very long since our last council meeting. Just so everyone knows, EAC will be meeting at the end of September, and our next Co-op Students Council meeting isn't scheduled yet, but again, that will be sometime in September, so I'll have more to add on those for the October meeting of Council. I've also attached an appendix to my report, which includes mostly everything that I'm working on, basically everything that is substantive enough that you might be able to call it a project. And then on top of that, I have kind of various more day-to-day and smaller duties that I'm up to. So I would just encourage everyone to take a look at that priority list and just be mindful of everything that I'm already up to when we're talking about bringing new advocacy initiatives forward. And right now, I think that my workload is relatively manageable, but it's definitely getting to a point where I can't get everything done, even in a slightly more than 40-hour work week. So at some point in the future, I may be coming back to council and saying, well, we need to talk about prioritizing this and what points from council mandates or what points from the annual plan need to fall off in order to make room for council's upcoming priorities. Edward has just kindly informed me that Co-op Students Council has a meeting on Tuesday, which is probably in my calendar. I just didn't realize it. In addition to my written report, I just wanted to provide an update from last council. Abby and I have a meeting coming up with the Student Success Office regarding international student supports. Looking at the budget report, I've identified a few action items that I'll keep in mind over the rest of the year. And then as an update to the stance and letter to the Office of Premier Ford and the Office of the Solicitor General on the funding for social services and funding for policing, we'll be preparing a press release, as the letter now has signatories from 4 other student unions, and we're the only student association, but the University of Ottawa Students Union has just signed on, so we now represent over 170,000 undergraduate students, and I thought that was worthy of sharing again with the world. And if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to take them now.
Go ahead, Cannon.
Hi, sorry, Abby. This was more of a question for you and not for Megan. My mic was not working initially. So if it's okay, can I ask you a question?
Sure, go ahead.
In the services review, you said that the execs were going to meet on September 10th to discuss like survey priorities. Could you provide us an update on like what you ended up deciding what the priorities were?
Sure. So I don't have the list directly in front of me now, but Cannon, if you're specifically asking about the survey for the fees review, it's on the priority list. Some other priorities, the services review, we're going to be doing another student experience. I forget what we've actually titled it, but similar to the survey that we put out in the winter term in the spring to learn more about student experience during COVID, we'll be doing another one. Megan, would you also be able to provide some updates on some of the surveys that we'll be putting out from USA and potentially UCRU?
Yep. So USA is running a survey that runs approximately every 3 years, previously called the Ontario Post-Secondary Student Survey. Now it's called the Ontario University Student Survey, so we'll be promoting that through November. We are also planning to run a survey related to the housing report. So the second phase of the housing report requires a lot of primary data collection, which we will be aiming to do around October. I can pull it up because we probably made some edits to it since Catherine had it. So just give me a moment and I'll get the full list. At this point, though, I think we've touched on pretty much everything.
While Megan's pulling it up, John, did you want to speak?
Yes, thank you, Abby. I just want to say that I'm appreciative and excited to see what international student advocacy is going to look like. So thanks for getting that on your list as well, Megan.
Well, Megan's still working to pull things, great, it's in the chat now, the survey priorities for the fall term. I don't know if anyone else has any more questions for Megan, and she can take them now.
I would just add, as Evelyn is copying that into the live doc, that these dates are tentative. So this was the discussion that the executive had and kind of our ideal dates. And then our director of marketing communications and outreach is taking this back to our marketing department just to ensure that with promotions related to the election and housing rights and everything else that the marketing department is working on, that we will have time to do promotions for all of these. So it's not set in stone yet, but this is kind of the executive's ideal, and we might have to tweak or push a few things back by a month or two to conform with marketing priorities and availability.
Thank you, Megan, for getting that. I'll do one last call for questions for the Vice President Education. And if there are no questions, we'll move on to the report of the Vice President Student Life. Okay, thank you, Megan. We'll move on to the report of the Vice President Student Life. Nada, would you like to begin?
Hello, everybody. You all hear me? Hello?
Yep, you're good.
Okay,
Yes, we can.
Amazing. So there isn't much that I would add more to the written report that you all received with the agenda. There is, however, a motion to ratify the service coordinators. So if there aren't any questions, we can go ahead to that, but I'm also open to receiving questions. So
I'll second the motion if you're moving it.
Thank you, John. So the motion reads, be it resolved that Council ratifies the service coordinators as presented by the Vice President Student Life. I believe you can find the list of the service coordinators in the report of the Vice President Student Life. John seconds. Cannon, are you wishing to speak to the motion, or do you have a question for Nada?
I have a question, so it can wait.
Sure. So all those in opposition? Any abstentions? Okay, hearing none, the motion passes and the service coordinators are ratified for the fall term. Nada, would you like to continue with your report, or can we move on to questions?
I just want to note something in the live minutes. Is the motion moved by me or you, Abby?
It's moved by Nada. Thank you for the correction.
Yep, there aren't any further additions to my written report, so I can move ahead to questions.
Thank you, Nada. We'll begin looking at the speaking order. We'll begin with Cannon.
Nada, in 1.4 under orientation, you said that we like orientation and SSO is looking into potentially expanding the role of orientation leaders into Waterloo Ready.
Yep.
I was just wondering if there is going to be actual consultation with orientation leaders to see if this is something they want to do. Because from my experience, there were a lot of leaders who didn't want to be part of Waterloo Ready because it's really different than what an orientation leader looks like. So I would just be hesitant to like kind of make that change without any consultation.
Yep, that's an amazing point. Thank you for bringing that up. So obviously, with anything that concerns students, especially orientation leaders, we'll make sure to get consultation from students, and I'll make sure to pass that along to Becky. So thank you for bringing that point up.
Nada and Ken and I will also add that Becky is currently working with the Student Success Office to learn more about what orientation will look like for next year and hiring timelines for our student leaders. So Becky will probably be following up with Nada very shortly about how those conversations are progressing.
Abby, I had another question if it's okay.
I believe John's on the speaking order, so I'll take John and then come back to you. Is that all right, Cannon?
Yep.
I'm not.
Oh, does it not say?
That's the old speaking order.
Ah, okay, then go ahead.
Full stop, new one.
Nada, could you expand a bit more on the part-time role pay for our team and where the status for that is right now? Like, what's the first step, basically?
Yep. So the status of that was that the director of student engagement, Dave, and Becky had a conversation about that on Friday, and so I'm yet to work.
Thank you.
Evelyn, it looks like your screen share has dropped out.
Oh, are you not able to look at it anymore?
I can't. I don't know about anyone else.
I can see the live minutes. It did cut out for a second.
Is everyone else still able to see the live minutes?
Yes, I can see them.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, it's
I
back.
know I'm not able to see them.
Maybe I can just restart and reshare my screen.
I reloaded my Teams and it worked. That might work for
Okay.
everyone else.
While we're getting the live minutes back up and ready to go, John has recommended restarting Teams, coming back in to be able to see the live minutes, or you can follow along using the link to the live minutes. I just want to confirm that there are no further questions for the report of the Vice President's Student Life. John, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to ask, have we had questions for the VPOF portfolio? Because I know we just skipped that because Alana isn't here.
Yeah, we can have an opportunity to ask questions that I can pass on to Alana if there are questions for.
I don't know if there's any, but it'd be good to have that opportunity.
Sure. If there are no more questions for the report of the Vice President's Student Life, I'll move on to some questions for the Vice President Operations and Finance, which I will pass on to the VPOF. Yes, Cannon, you have a point of information?
Was there a written report submitted by the VPOF?
I will be circulating a written report either this evening or Monday morning.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any questions for the Vice President Operations and Finance? Okay, seeing no questions in the chat, I'll move on to the report of the Board of Directors.
Good morning, Council. Hopefully you've all had the opportunity to read my report. So since our last regular meeting of Students' Council, there's been one emergency board meeting where the board approved the fiscal year 2021 budget, and we considered the new corporate policy on editorial independence and amended our committees of board procedure and approved a new board of publications procedure in relation to the items that council is seeing as well. As far as attendance at board meetings, all directors attended the emergency meeting except for Vice President Abelnaga, who I excused, and attendance through the spring term was perfect except for 3 absences that were all excused. One for Council Director Hunt back in June, I think, and 2 for Vice President Abelnaga. I'm open to any questions at this point. It appears there are none.
Excellent, thanks, Ben. We'll move on to our representative reports and begin with the Applied Health Science Caucus. Marie, would you like to start? Are there any members of the Applied Health Science Caucus in attendance?
Hi, sorry, my computer crashed.
Would you like to go ahead, Marie?
Yes. So from the Applied Health Sciences Caucus, we are still responding to emails and other communications regarding this special August meeting. And other than that, we're currently looking at ways to reach our constituents outside of social media, as we found that it's not been the best vessel yet.
Thank you, Marie. Are there any questions for the Applied Health Science Caucus? Seeing none, I'll move on to the Arts Caucus. Are there any representatives from Arts here today? Okay, I don't see anyone unmuting or indicating in the chat that they would like to speak, so we'll move on to the Engineering Caucus. Oh, go ahead, Hyro.
Hello, sorry. I just couldn't unmute my microphone, but yeah, so we've been working on replying to some emails since the special meeting, and yeah, we're just trying to get ready for this upcoming term.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the Arts Caucus? Okay, not seeing any, I'll move to the Engineering Caucus. Are there any representatives of engineering?
Hi, this is Edward, one of the engineering counselors. Nothing much to report. We've just started a new term. We have A Society back on term now, and they're setting up a bunch of events to be run and continuing to advocate based on how online learning and slash teaching is going. But yeah, nothing significant to report at this moment. Unless any of the presidents, Delaney or Matthew, have anything you want to add?
I'm not hearing anything from Matthew or Delaney. So we will move on to the Environment Caucus.
The Environment Caucus doesn't have anything to report of note as of right now. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll move on to the Mathematics Caucus. John, go ahead, and then Matthew.
Sure. Actually, if Matthew's going to talk, I'll just let him give the society updates. Go ahead, Mr. President.
Thank you, John. I just wanted to do some quick updates about some of MathStock's operations. Although I know I'm not the MathStock rep here. We've just, started up our term and getting going a lot of our events and other services throughout the term. One thing new that we approved at our council meeting yesterday is we are collaborating with the Terry Fox Foundation to provide our students an opportunity and more of an incentive and encouragement to get involved with the Terry Fox Run, a charity run that happens yearly, that this year is happening virtually. Benefits mental and physical health and also benefits a good cause, just cancer research, the thing that they move toward. And then we're also looking to match some of our students' donations to the foundation as extra encouragement to get involved. And I'd invite everyone here to get involved in the Terry Fox Run as well, although we won't match your donations. Thank you. John.
Yeah, to add on to society updates, I feel I need to tell council, I think, that I am now the counselor director on MathSock's management board.
Thank you, Matthew and John. Are there any other people in the Mathematics Caucus who would like to add to the report? If not, I will take questions for the Mathematics Caucus. Okay, not seeing anyone coming forward in the chat. Are there any questions for the Mathematics Caucus? Okay, seeing none, I'll move on to the Science Caucus.
Hi, this is Carly from SciSoc. So we don't have much to report. We're just finishing up with our peer mentorship program. The training is finishing this week. So the peer mentors will have their first contact with the science students next week, and we're hoping that goes well. And then we finished up with our coordinator hiring. And we have our first coordinator meeting also on Monday. So yeah, that's all that we pretty much have going on right now.
Thank you, Carly. Are there any questions for the Science Caucus? John, is that a question?
Yes. Carly, when you say the mentors will have first contact with their mentees, that is all online, or are you guys having in-person meetings?
Yep, so we're doing everything virtually. So we're not encouraging any in-person activities, and we're matching peer mentors based on not based on location. So yeah, it'll all be online.
Thank you, Carly. Thanks, John. I don't see any more questions in the chat, so we will move on to the report of the Cambridge campus.
Hi, this is Jason from Cambridge campus. So the Waterloo Architecture Students Association had their election for the fall 2020 online term, so all positions have been filled. We just had our first meeting last Friday, September 13th, with everyone present, and we discussed council procedures and organized weekly future meetings, for the next meeting being next Wednesday. WASA has funding this term, so we are currently figuring out the allocation of the budget for each of our events, including the annual coffee house set for next week. That's all.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the Cambridge campus? Hearing none, please send our congratulations to the incoming team over at WASA. That's very exciting. We'll move on to the report of the Kitchener campus. Do we have a representative from Kitchener here? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone from Kitchener, so I'll move on to the report of the Stratford campus.
Hi everyone. There's nothing big to report. I'm just figuring out different ways to connect with the constituents because social media hasn't really been active with replies and such. So if anyone has like any suggestions, feel free to email or message me on Teams. And I'm just trying to come up with different activities and stuff to engage specifically the first years and get them to understand what WUSA is and stuff. And that's it.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Stratford? Seeing none, we'll move on to St. Jerome's.
Hello, everyone. Currently, we are preparing for a union elections for this September, and we're working on online programming and advocacy for the term. That's all we have to report as of now.
Thank you, Chanel. Are there any questions for St. Jerome's? Megan, go ahead.
Yeah, I recall in a previous meeting, you were talking about the union doing some advocacy related to the BJ Rye situation. I was just wondering if there were any updates on that.
So regarding the BJ Rye situation, we hired 3 members to be part of our EDI, so our Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Initiative, to be on a committee towards this. So we were able to hire the 3 students. Their names are not on the top of my head right now, and that's what they're currently working with. Our constituents are getting updates through emails every month from St. Jerome's. I think Megan has something to add.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm the president of the St. Jerome Students Union, so I just have a couple of things that I can add to Chanel's response. So the names of the 3 student representatives on the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Working Group are Jenny Fu, Eva Stolfi, and Leslie Moss. So they're all active St. Jerome's student leaders. It's my understanding that EDI working group has met a number of times beginning in the spring term and continuing into the fall. And that working group was formed by St. Jerome's University, so not by the Students' Union, but we were asked to liaise with students to find these 3 student representatives. Those 3 student reps are being compensated for their time, I'd like to note. This working group is the first stage in St. Jerome's overall EDI strategy. So the task of the working group is to consolidate information and data to provide steering and priorities for the following stages of the president's strategy. So that's kind of one vein of how St. Jerome's is responding to not only the situation with Professor Vijay Rai, but also racism on campus in general and oppression on campus as it's been reported by students for many years. In addition to that, something that our Students' Union has been working on and kind of spearheading is we have sent a letter to the president of the university, Peter Meehan. That's the president of St. Jerome's. We outlined a number of calls to action ranging from very specific things that students have expressed that they expect from St. Jerome's to more kind of broad overarching efforts in terms of anti-racism and anti-oppression. If council is interested, I can read those calls to action out to everyone, but I want to be mindful of time as well.
Megan, you had a direct response?
Yeah, I think I would be interested in seeing the calls to action. Maybe, I don't know if you want to paste them in the chat or send them to me in an email. Either way works. And then I just wanted to say thank you very much for the comprehensive update. It sounds like you guys are doing a lot of great work. And I just also wanted to offer WUSA's support centrally. So for yourself and especially for those student reps on the working group, if there's any support that they need, whether it's in terms of research or understanding university policy or, you know, like working on putting information together, anything like that, that's absolutely something that we'd be happy to help with. So if you'd like to connect with me offline, we can talk more about what that can look like.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Megan. Just to kind of clarify and let everybody know, so those 3 student reps are not members of the Students' Union. Well, they're student members, but they're not executive or board members of the Students' Union. But we've extended like our full support to the 3 of them in the work that they're doing. So we've kind of given them an open invitation to come to us when they need any support, and I can definitely let them know that WUSA is also there for them in a similar way. In terms of those calls to action, I will just pull them up and paste them in the chat after this.
Thank you, Megan, and Chanel. We'll move on to the report of Renison University College. Actually, I believe Victoria is not here today. So that is the end of our representative reports. We'll now move on to the officers of council reports, beginning with the speaker. So I did provide some updates in the president's report, I guess to have a written speaker's report included. I'll just remind councilors that you can still request a mailing list for your caucus and a caucus email if you are interested in learning more about communications with members in your caucus. Stephanie, you have a question?
Hi. Yourself?
Okay.
Sorry. Okay. All right. Yeah, so I was just wondering, so you sent the email for the Commissioner for Student Accessibility job description, but it's not showing up in the Google Drive. Like I'm just wondering what we're doing with that, whether or not it's like something you're asking council to adopt or.
Oh, sorry, the Student Accessibility Commission?
I've just dropped it into Google Drive, Stephanie. Sorry, I hadn't done that. I'd only circulated it by email. Or rather, Abby had circulated it.
To answer your question, I included it as part of my report for information. Council approved the commission at the last meeting of Students' Council.
Okay, gotcha.
If there are any questions about the commissioner job description, which I will be posting in the coming week, please do not hesitate to send me an email, and that goes for anything that's included in my report or attachment to my report. If you have questions, please send me an email. Are there any other questions for the speaker? We'll move on to the deputy speaker.
Thank you. I do not have the attendance from the last meeting yet, so I couldn't provide the report on attendance. However, I will note that I've had a few at-large students requesting to attend this meeting, which I find very encouraging and a great. I would attribute that probably to our social media presence, likely Instagram, possibly Facebook as well, but it's really encouraging to see at-large members showing interest in a, in my opinion, fairly mundane meeting.
Thank you, John. It is really exciting to see all the social media promotion. Are there any questions for the deputy speaker? Megan, go ahead.
This isn't actually so much a question for the deputy speaker, so I apologize for that. But just kind of in reference to WUSA's social media, I just wanted to extend congratulations to you for how successfully it looks like the WUSA Box campaign has been going.
Thank you, Megan. That is really nice of you to say. We're really excited about the WUSA boxes. As Alana is not here today, so there isn't a report of the secretary. I was wondering if, Mike, you could just give a quick status update on the minutes from previous meetings.
Yes, good morning. So July's are quite almost done. I hope to have them sent out this week. May's are the next closest to being done. I'm going to telegraph those like next Wednesday. And August is like the 5-hour meeting that I want to get through. I would hope to get those done the week after, which should be the first week of the 1st of October is when I aim to have those done, so that we're caught up for the next meeting.
Thank you, Mike. Are there any questions about the minutes from previous meetings? Okay, not seeing any. Sorry, John, you had a question?
This is when we're done with all the officer reports, so I think we're there.
Yep, we're there. We're
All
moving
right.
on to standing committees and commissioners.
No, I'm motioning that we recess until 11:30 when the International Student Initiative item is scheduled to commence.
Oh, I'll second that. Or can I not just tell everyone that we're going to take a little bit of a break?
You can do it on privilege as the speaker.
Okay. I'll assume a privileged motion to recess until 11:30. If everyone could come back here at exactly 11:30 to hear a presentation from an at-large member with the Vice President of Education, that'd be wonderful. Enjoy 3 minutes. Megan, is there a actual presentation for this special order?
No, Jen will just be speaking to the item.
Jen, yes, you can provide links in the chat with appropriate information regarding your presentation. So it is now 11:30. I'm hoping that everyone is coming back from their washroom breaks and is ready for the next presentation. I will hand it over to Jin to deliver a speech. There is a link in the chat with some resources for this presentation, but I will hand it over to our at-large member.
Thank you, Abby. Good morning, and thank you for having me. My name is Jin Sia. I'm in 4E Mechanical Engineering. I'm a member of the Education Advisory Council, and I'm an international student from Malaysia. International students have been disproportionately affected by COVID-19, yet are not eligible for pandemic relief and support. The pandemic has exposed the many ways in which international students are vulnerable. Some are compelled to work in unsafe conditions to make ends meet, and others are facing dropping out entirely. Without economic support such as CESB, and with tuition fees 2 to 3 times higher than that of domestic students, mass layoffs and campus closures have hit us harder than most. We are alone in a foreign country, far from our families, and many of us are struggling to survive. Without permanent status, international students have always been vulnerable and systematically disadvantaged members of the university community. We are less eligible for scholarships and government services such as universal health care, and we have fewer research and job opportunities. This is despite the fact that we pay the same income and sales taxes, buy from Canadian business, and pay exorbitant tuition, while lacking the same familial support networks that domestic students have. Contrary to stereotypes, not all of us come from wealth. For those receiving aid from their home governments, this aid has collapsed due to the global economic crisis. Working too many hours to meet the tuition fee burden has led to international students getting deported in the past. Failing out or dropping out of university can mean wasting a lifetime of sacrifices. International students who have not been able to find a job after graduation are at risk of losing status, putting them at risk of losing healthcare in the middle of a pandemic. Today, I call upon you, councillors of WUSA, to support fair and compassionate immigration policy. Support the campaigns of the Migrant Workers Alliance and the Migrant Rights Network to fix the postgraduate work permit and secure permanent status for all. This is a summary of the demands. Firstly, to include international students in post-pandemic recovery planning and support. We are more in need of support, not less. Secondly, to reform the postgraduate work permit and pathways to permanent residency so that we can continue living and working in Canada. The current economic crisis has been doubly severe for international alumni as they struggle to make ends meet while worrying about meeting permanent residency requirements. Finally, to provide permanent status to all migrants in Canada who want it, so that we have the same services and protections as everyone else. This is not a call for open borders, this is a call for equal protection against exploitation. Despite contributing to Canada economically, intellectually, and culturally, we have no say in government policies that directly affect us. WUSA support as an institution will provide us with a voice within the Canadian government, which we desperately need now more than ever. I would like to thank Megan Town and Matthew Garrett for their advocacy to include international students in the CESB and for recognizing the value that we bring to the university community. I now call upon the WUSA Students' Council to take our advocacy one step further and support fundamental, permanent policy changes. In doing so, we build a more vibrant, more resilient community for all students. We too deserve relief. We too deserve this decent work. We too have hopes and dreams for our lives in Canada. International students don't want special privileges or handouts. We just want a level playing field. I plead with you, my Canadian allies, please help us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Would you like to take questions at this time?
I would be happy to. Thank you.
Excellent. I'll now open the floor to any councillors and at-large members who have any questions for Jin's speech, and then we'll move on to the motion provided by Vice President Education. John, yes, point of order.
Did we get a motioner and seconder?
You're right. The motion submitted by Megan, so I'll take Megan as the mover. Megan, is that right?
Yep.
Great, and I'll take Cannon as the seconder. Can we do a question and answer, John, for Jin, and then we'll move on. I'll read out the motion.
Sure.
Great. I'll begin with Edward.
Hi. Actually, I had a question on the motion itself. Can I ask that now, or should I wait till later?
Yeah, can you wait? Just we'll do questions for Jin on the speech that he just delivered, and then we'll move on to questions on the motion.
All right, thank you.
Angela, you had a question regarding the presentation?
I just have a quick question. So I understand the concept of, putting international students on like an equal level as, Canadian students. But I guess this is more so just for my own knowledge. Do like international students get aid from their own countries, or is that country dependent? Or are they only able to get aid from Canada? Like, how does it work?
Thank you, Angela, for your question. It actually depends on which country they're from. For example, I've not received any aid from my home country. I know students from Ecuador are only able to fund their international tuition here because of aid from the Ecuadorian government. However, when the oil price collapsed, the Ecuadorian economy is very oil-based, so their tuition aid collapsed as well. So that means that if we are not able, if there isn't a significant change in policy, they will no longer be able to fund their education, and they'll be forced to abort it. So I believe I've not heard of a single case where an international student actually received COVID aid from their home governments.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
No problem.
I'll take John and then Cannon.
We have Seneca first.
Nope, I'll take John and then Cannon.
Great, fine. So for a lot of Caribbean students, they don't get aid for some countries. If you do particularly well at the end of secondary school, they will provide you with either up to 5,000 US or full tuition if you qualify for that. But there's no additional COVID aid, and it's only for those who do exceptionally well in their high school exams that they would get anything.
Sorry, was that a question for me or just a statement?
That was a reply to Angela's question.
Oh, okay, thank you. Understood.
And Cannon also has a response.
I was gonna say, I'm from India, and I was in the top 2% in my final grade in my high school, but I still didn't get any aid from my country if I was studying internationally. They were providing me aid for studying the country itself, but not for international, because a lot of countries like to keep their money in their own economy in a way. I didn't get any COVID aid, and international students are really disadvantaged by the funding opportunities available to us. I would like to thank Jim for all the work he has done on this, and I fully support it, and I will yield the rest of my time to Seneca.
So Cannon, you're yielding the rest of your time to Seneca?
Yeah.
Seneca would.
That's all right.
Okay.
I think Cannon and John said everything I was going to say. The only other point I would add at all is that most international students don't get funding support and rely on private scholarships or academic scholarships. A few years ago, there was a panel on international student mental health and things like that under MPP Han Dong, and one of the major concerns was lack of international financial support. That's all.
Thank you all. Are there any further questions for Jin? Okay. Seeing none in the chat, we'll move on to the motion. I'll read it and then I'll take questions. Edward, I already see yours in the chat. I'll allow Megan to take some questions. So whereas international students have been placed in an especially precarious situation as a result of COVID-19, and whereas a member of EAC is working to organize advocacy initiatives to support international students, and whereas the Migrant Worker Alliance and Migrant Rights Network are calling on the government to make permanent residency more accessible and support international students through COVID-19, and whereas support for these groups would include actions like promoting events and information on social media and assisting student members of organizations with government relations, then be it resolved, Council approves WUSA's support of the work of the Migrant Worker Alliance and Migrants' Rights Network. Megan is the mover, Cannon is the seconder. Megan, would you like to speak to this motion? Then I'll allow Cannon, and then we'll take Edward's question.
Sure. I'd actually like to make an amendment to the motion. It's largely clerical, but my mistake. So the Migrant Worker Alliance is also known as Migrant Students United. So if we can just place Migrant Students United in brackets after Migrant Worker Alliance in each of those cases.
Megan, can you just repeat the amendment you would like to make?
Sure. So wherever it says Migrant Worker Alliance, I would like to add in brackets following that, Migrant Students United. They are interlocking organizations or a different name for the same organization, just to make that more clear. Oh, Jen has corrected me. Migrant Students United is a subsidiary of Migrant Workers Alliance. So just the student chapter of the Migrant Workers Alliance, Migrant Worker Alliance organization, to make it more relevant for students.
Okay. Excellent. We will make that change.
Great. In addition to that, I don't believe that I have anything to add to the motion. Jen originally approached me in advance of some provincial level kind of discussions that were going on with the critic for the Ministry of Colleges and Universities. And unfortunately, we weren't able to bring him into that discussion to elevate some of these international student asks. So when he approached me to talk about support for some of the other work that he's doing, I thought it was a great opportunity for WUSA to get involved with another organization and collaborate on our international student asks.
Thank you, Megan. Cannon, would you like an opportunity to speak?
No, not really. I would let anyone else speak. Go ahead.
Thank you, Cannon. We'll move on to Edward's question. Edward, go ahead.
Hi, thank you for all your explanation of this motion. It was very informative. My question is regarding the last whereas of assisting student members in the organization of government relations. I guess wanted clarity on, are we helping the student members with their work with the organization, or just helping them as individuals working as individuals trying to navigate the government? I don't have a particular issue. I just want clarity.
Megan, go ahead.
Yeah. So one of the issues that Jen was discussing with me was getting their asks in front of government. So given that many of their asks align with WUSA's asks, I think it would be a great opportunity for something like requesting a meeting with Bardish Chagger to talk about our issues, but also just some of the support that I've actually already been providing in the background, like just explaining to Jen, who the correct decision makers are to contact and how some of those processes work as they've been working on a letter writing campaign. So it's both kind of formalizing some advice that I've been giving to Jen, as well as seeking permission to move forward with having a more formal meeting, or something like supporting a letter to Minister Chagger to this effect.
Thank you, Megan. John, go ahead.
Thank you, Abby. I'd like to express support for this motion. We should absolutely be supporting organizations like this in their work.
Thank you, John. Stephanie, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd also like to voice my support for this motion. International students make up a substantial population of Waterloo. I think every single faculty has a reasonable amount of international student constituents who have been voicing a lot of concern and a lot of stress of what's been going on. I'm really excited to see an at-large member get involved on this scale, and for Megan to be involved in this as well. So it's nice to see something kind of arise out of an at-large student's concern, especially to like this large and this well thought out an extent. So yeah, I would like people to be mindful of this, and I think that this is a huge step in a right direction for WUSA to get more at-large students caring and involved, and to basically benefit the democratic process and the advocacy that we have in place.
Indigenous people of this land have also undergone and continue to undergo dehumanization by settler colonial government.
Celine, I believe. Your mic is unmuted.
Thank you, Stephanie. Are there any further questions on this motion? Questions or comments, I guess? Okay, excellent. I believe we'll bring this motion to a vote. All opposed to the motion. Any opposition? Okay, the motion passes. As this is a special order, I believe we'll go back to the reports of the standing committees and commissioners. I'd like to thank Jen and Megan for their work on the International Student Initiatives. Thank you for joining us and speaking to our council today. Now that we're moving back to standing committees and commissioner reports, we'll start with the report of the Committee of Presidents. You can see the report from the Committee of Presidents regarding the Ad Hoc Committee on Student Safety and minutes associated with that from the last COPS meeting. COPS will be asking Council to accept the report of the Committee of Presidents, which ratifies the formation of the Ad Hoc Committee on Student Safety. At this time, I'll take questions on the report, and then I'll ask for a seconder on the motion. I'm not seeing any questions for the report of the Committee of Presidents. So I'll read the motion. Be it resolved that Council accepts the report of the Committee of Presidents and ratifies the formation of the Ad Hoc Committee on Student Safety for those purposes identified in the report. Can I get a seconder? Thank you, Cannon.
Abby, are you the mover?
Yeah, I'm the mover.
Okay.
Are there any further questions on the motion to accept the report? Okay. Seeing none, we'll bring this to, John, go ahead.
Yeah, what kind of safety, or will it be looking at all kinds of safety?
I believe the Committee of Presidents is looking to have a conversation about different services available to students on campus. That would be like mental health supports. So we're looking more generally at student safety on campus to see how we can best support students to make them feel safe. But Delaney brought this forward at the committee, so I'll allow her to speak.
Thanks, Abby. Just to address it, it's focusing on all aspects of student safety and trying to find the gaps where students don't currently feel safe. I think the ones that we generally have an base understanding of right now is just general like safety when someone's walking around campus, like mental health security and feeling sound and safe in the environment. But we don't know what we're missing, and we just want to give a chance for those concerns to be heard and to see where there's things that might be currently being said or covered in one area but actually aren't being addressed, or maybe there's some things that we're completely missing, even looking at examples of like what are other schools doing for student safety that we might not be doing yet.
Thank you, Delaney. Megan, you would also like to directly respond?
Yeah, I would just like to share with council that this motion came forward from a discussion about campus police. So I just wanted to be transparent about that.
Thank you, Megan. Are there any further questions for the Committee of Presidents? Jessica Wren, go ahead.
Hi, yeah. I just had a question regarding the responsibilities. It says to present the committee's final findings and recommendations to the Students' Council. So do we know like when the committee will end and the final findings will be presented?
That's a really great question. You'll have the report once the committee has created the report, or by the end of the governing year, whichever comes first.
Okay, thank you.
Cannon, go ahead. Oh, thank you, Cannon. He withdraws his question. I'll do one last call for questions, and then we'll bring this to a vote. Okay, I'm not seeing any further questions. And oh, Edward, go ahead.
Hi, I guess my question is, would it make sense to have more satellite campus representatives considering how the safety concerns on satellite campuses might differ geographically significantly?
Are you asking for additional, so you're saying you would like to see more satellite campus representation?
Not quite yet. I'm just asking if it was considered.
Yes, it was considered, as I believe, I don't have the report directly in front of me at the moment. I believe there are campus and affiliate seats available as members of our members on the Committee of Presidents also represent the various societies or equivalent at the satellite campuses. So I guess that was considered because they have seat and representation on the Committee of Presidents. But I would have to take a look at the actual wording.
Oh,
thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, seeing no further questions. All those in opposition? You can either type like aye in the chat or say it out loud. Any abstention? Okay, the motion passes, and council accepts the report of the Committee of Presidents. We'll now move on to the report of the Policies and Procedures Committee. This has been amended to say that this is a first reading of the policy, so council will have an opportunity to provide any comment for consideration by the Policies and Procedures Committee at their upcoming meeting, as mentioned in the report of the President. I don't know if anybody has any comments so far they would like to raise now. You can find the editorial independence and codes of ethics for student publications in Appendix D, other reports. John, go ahead.
Hi, I'm going to post an article in here, and I'm going to ask if this is an example of content that the Board of Publications would seek to filter out as false, misleading, or no, just false and misleading.
Abby, can I respond?
Yes, Megan, go ahead.
John, that's a silly question. The Board of Publications operates essentially autonomously from WUSA centrally, so it's really not our place to speculate on what they might construe to be false or misleading information. I could tell you, if I read this article, I might think, that's not really what our position is, and then I would send a message to our communications manager, and then our communications manager would contact Imprint, and Imprint, if they refused to issue a correction, then perhaps we might raise that with the Board of Publications, but I wouldn't speculate on what the Board of Publications would do.
I'll also allow Seneca to directly respond to this.
Hi, thank you, Madam President. I just quickly wanted to identify that, for everyone listening, the Board of Publications would effectively be a board of directors, a fiduciary body for the publishing house aspects of the organization. So they'd be a management board that deals with the publisher. Publishers notoriously keep strong editorial independence from their editorial staff and their editorial boards, and it's important that that be respected so that editors can publish as they see fit without concerns about, whether the publisher will censor their media. Now, obviously, the condition on that in terms of improper content is where salacious or defamatory things or private things get published that really have no business being made public. And that's the time when the Board of Publications would step in and should step in. But the method Megan has highlighted is the appropriate method to go about it. If there's editorial content that is, not complete or is intentionally misleading in the opinion of some, often it's not intentional, often it's just incomplete, then you go through proper responses, you issue a retraction, or you ask for a retraction to be issued, or you publish a counterpiece and an opinion to the editor. As for the, so that's directly to your point, John, on the role of the Board of Publications. I don't think that they should be stepping in and doing editorial management. That's not the role of a publishing house or its board of directors. I'd also like to put my name in the hat to speak to the policy presented, if I may, Abby. That's just a separate item, though.
Sure, Seneca, go ahead. Seneca, would you like to speak to the policy?
Sorry, I was speaking to the policy. I had my mic muted. I forgot to unmute. Thank you for your patience. The policy is a pretty comprehensive overhaul of its initial version, based on comprehensive historical review, environmental scans of other other universities and student associations relationships and publishing policies with their student publications, and consultation with on-campus student publications, including Math News, Iron Warrior, the Imprint, the Environmental Studies Journal. And so it represents what I think is a more complete first draft, and I'm glad that it's been presented for first reading. Some major amendments that were made as to content in it are summarized in my report, and I'll speak a little bit more about that background during my commission report, but generally expanding what the definition of editors so that it could be more flexible to constituency society groups and not just structures with full-time editorial staff. Kind of constituting what and who is the publisher and when, and that defining line that John raised with an interesting question about when the Board of Publication should step in, and the answer is very infrequently, if at all. There shouldn't be a noticeable difference for student publications on our campus. There should just be an oversight mechanism. That student publications have the authority to publish about governance and about WUSA and its executive societies and their executives and similar, that there's no constraint on editorial freedom. That there is a respect, however, for what constitutes free expression in Canada, limited by, say, hate speech and applicable case law. That there are allowances for anonymity and things to that effect. So I'd say generally the presented policy does a good job of capturing what is considered standard practices and codes of ethics for Canadian media, particularly university and student media. There are some specific Waterloo elements to it that make it unique for our type of school. Notably, I'd say the key elements that distinguish it for a decentralized university like ours, as opposed to like a very centralized university, would be autonomy of constituency publications, that they're accountable in the existing fashion. So it would not change, this policy in no way would seek to change the relationship between a constituency publication and its constituency or student society. And that they would be entitled to the same operational autonomy they currently are and their affiliations as they currently are through their current constitutions and agreements. And that they would have an immense amount of say in amendments to editorial policy going forward. So kind of to that end, as this is going to PPC next after the first reading, it is being one of the ongoing feedback mechanisms right now we have is communications with the editor-in-chief of Iron Warrior, the executive editor and publishers at Imprint, and the editors at Math News. And we have had a number of really good conversations with them about some of the areas that they'd like to see improvements, and every single one of their comments has been reflected and requests has been reflected in an amendment to the policy that has been circulated with PPC. So I'd say the current version is a really comprehensive response to good feedback and good consultation being conducted. And I look forward to continuing that consultation moving forward, and hopefully PPC sees fit to advance the policy in short order.
Megan, go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a concern. I think when Seneca was speaking, he made reference to a commissioner report. Procedure 27 defines commissioners as part-time students responsible for a commission. So given that Seneca is no longer a student, I think it would be more appropriate to term that just a report of a part-time staff on this work.
Thanks, Megan. I agree. I'll make the change in the agenda and the minutes. Stephanie, you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, so I have a question. So this might be a weird question because I haven't thoroughly gone through the policy yet, but I guess like with all these concerns coming regarding I guess like the ability of the press to hold organizations accountable, or just like this fear that you know, like this Board of Publications is going to be used to, I guess, like control what's being said or whatnot. I guess like there's a matter of like what's like written within the policy itself, but also the fact that like if you were to say like yeah, like they're, you know, all publications are accountable underneath this thing, like I guess what's stopping, like what mechanisms have been in place so that someone who, you know, doesn't have the same amount of like expertise as Seneca or other folks have on editorial independence. Like what's from stopping someone being like, oh, hey, you're underneath this thing, therefore you need to like abide by it. Like, I guess like what's stopping this from being abused? Like what has been written into the thing or what practices are kind of occurring to prevent like an organization from bullying, say Math News or something, from publishing content that is actually fine underneath normal editorial codes of ethics. Sorry if that wasn't phrased very well. Hopefully I got my point across.
Thank you, Stephanie. Seneca, you'd like to directly respond?
Hi, great question, Steph. So I guess I'll begin with what I think is probably something that's on especially the math counselors' minds, and that is that we have consulted on this policy pretty extensively with Math News, and it was one of the reasons that it wasn't advanced to an e-vote, and it's one of the reasons that it's a first reading right now at council. Math News's most recent communiques with us have all identified that we have addressed in the amendments outlined in red in the policy through track changes, that this addresses their concerns. The only outstanding concern that they then raised was that they would like an appeals mechanism so that there is some sort of appellate process for what is considered improper content, or if Math News has a dispute with the constituency, or if Math News has a dispute with WUSA or similar. And so that was also added. So I guess the key delineators in what protections exist, appeals is kind of the last resort, right? And ideally you wouldn't want to get to an appellate process if you can prevent the need for it to begin with. So pretty strong powers of editors are in here, versus the policy really doesn't put a lot of strength or power in the corner of the Board of Publications. It puts a lot of responsibility on the Board of Publications for ensuring that the organization keeps that. So the Board of Publications' major role is to keep WUSA in line, not to keep constituencies in line, because WUSA has generally is in the position, the stronger position to abuse things if it wanted to. Now, it's not to say it would. I have faith in the organization that wouldn't happen, but the role is to have that kind of autonomy from the organization so that there is a mechanism of people who are not governance in WUSA, who are not student council, who are not the board of directors, making decisions about what is a publisher responsibility. And that the policy pretty clearly defines that almost all of the powers fall to the editors or editorial board or executive editor, as the case may be, of the various student publication as defined in their constitution. So for instance, Iron Warrior has an editor-in-chief versus an executive editor for the imprint versus editors, plural, that kind of formulate an editorial board in the case of Math News. And so the responsibilities there and the powers of those editors are pretty well protected. So throughout the policy, exceptions to the policy are only made by the editors or the editorial boards. Protections under the policy are for editorial content and to ensure that WUSA does not participate in any way in trying to micromanage or decide content in an editorial capacity. So that is codified throughout here in a number of locations. And the areas where there was some confusion on the part of Math News, because you raised that, we have since addressed that with the edits provided. And this version was sent to them with feedback, and the only request after that they identified was to include an appellate process. And so we included 3 edits resulting from their final feedback, and I'm sure we will continue their feedback, but final feedback preliminary to having this meeting and this presentation of first reading. And that was the autonomy of constituency publications, that we outright put it in that there's an autonomy and for constituency publications, and that those can be handled in accordance with their current rules. That this is by no means trying to change how Engineering Society and Iron Warrior work together, or how or their relationships, or Math Society or Math Faculty and Math News. This doesn't change that and doesn't affect it. It only guarantees protection from WUSA's interference. That there's a notice of amendment provision that they have to, if council or the board of directors is looking to amend this policy, that there is, because it has such an important stake in protecting the editorial independence of student publications, that there is a strict consultation requirement and an origination requirement for changes with those student publications. And then I'd say probably most importantly is the appellate provision under the compliance and enforcement section, which says that an appeal mechanism must exist to the Board of Publications for any alleged breaches on the part of
Seneca
or the public.
You've been asked to yield your time.
Stephanie, do you have any further questions about the information that Seneca has provided?
Yeah, so okay, so you're mentioning like in terms of like each publication generally has its own constitution and editorial board and whatnot. I guess I'm wondering about like smaller publications that exist, and I guess how you would see I guess the relationship between this editorial board and those organizations working, because from what I'm aware, there's like a few like very small publications going on that don't have the same like notoriety or organization as Iron Warrior or Math News, but they do exist. I guess like if students were to create like a new publication, expected for them to go through in terms of like so they would be like recognized by WUSA, and then they have to like set up another board. I guess like I'm kind of wondering how that works out, like if we're picking up the fringe organizations that exist in that regard.
Seneca, go ahead.
Thank you. So I those are good questions. I guess to the first one, I'll address them in order that you asked them. So the first one being relation of editorial boards and the Board of Publication. In terms of whether it's an editorial board or, thank you, Abby, an editorial board, an executive editor, or a series of editors, there's flexibility in the structure, right? Because different size publications have different needs. For instance, a big publication like The Imprint has a permanent staff editor versus there's a volunteer editor-in-chief for the Iron Warrior versus there is a series of a team of editors for the Math News. They're all different size organizations that rely on and have different needs in terms of structure. So there's no structural setup that is defined or dictated by policy. That we are trying to avoid telling student publications what to do as much as possible. The role of the editorial board is to be a publisher. It is to act as the representative of the publisher, and part of the reason for that is all of these student publications, even the little ones that are under clubs, like for instance, there's the law journal that's run by the Legal Studies Society, which is part of ASU, and all of these little publications. I mean, they're all protected by WUSA's liability insurance, comprehensive liability insurance. And at the end of the day, you know, if someone gets sued and a court were to say, you know, this court of competent jurisdiction says, yes, this was a person publishing something, but we're not going to hold that person accountable for their comments because at the end of the day, the organization should have known better. That does fall back on the corporation centrally. And so part of the last couple years of work in the broader financial sector for WUSA and the societies has been trying to make sure that there are systems in place for governance process, even if it is next to unused. So in terms of process, no, they would not apply to the Board of Education to be incorporated if they're, or to be structured and constituted if they are a faculty constituent or constituency or college publication. That would fall under, say, the ASU. If they want to create the law journal, well, it already exists, but they would go through ASU. That's a constituency publication. If it's an all-campus publication that's going to be managed or published by WUSA directly, then that would be chartered by the Board of Publications. And the chartering process would follow Board of Publications procedures. They would create procedures for it, and it's something that I mean, that's how the imprint came to be for very similar constitutional purposes. Hopefully that answers your question, Steph.
Thank you, Seneca. That was right on time. Stephanie, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions and comments to take back to the Policies and Procedures Committee? If you do have further questions and comments following this meeting, after hearing some information from Seneca and others, please feel free to email pres@wusa.ca with any comments, and I'll make sure that that gets to PPC for review. So thank you everyone for taking a look over this policy. We'll now move on to the report of the Education Advisory Council.
Great. So as I mentioned, EAC hasn't met since our last council meeting, but I did receive the resignation of one at-large member. Adrian cited needing to focus on his schoolwork during the fall term and resigned. So I would like to put forward a name to fill the blank for the at-large seat, and if there are any at-large members present or those present with know someone who's interested, we can also receive those and hold an election.
So Megan, are you bringing forward someone to fill the blank?
Let's take a seconder first.
Good point. John will second.
So I will put forward the name Clarissa Moriera.
Can you spell that, Megan?
I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you. Megan, are you okay to take questions and comments?
Yep.
Excellent. Matthew and then Stephanie.
I just had another at-large student that was interested in sitting on this committee. Is that something that I can nominate him for here or no?
Yes. Go ahead. Yes. Can you put their name in the chat, Matthew?
Yes, I will. I believe he's also on the call.
Stephanie, would you like to speak?
Yes, I also have another at-large member. I will put their name in the call.
John has a point of order. Go ahead.
The seconder was not given an opportunity to speak.
Okay, John, you can speak.
Thank you. For the at-large members that are present, I'd like to let them know that this is absolutely something that you can just put forward your name right now if you'd like to be involved, or if you'd like to know more about what this committee is. We can let you know that before you put your name forward if you wish.
Yeah. Okay, it looks like we've exhausted the new points in the chat, so I'll give a brief overview of the committee just for anyone who might be in the hypothetical gallery and considering it. The Education Advisory Council is the primary committee under the Vice President Education's portfolio. It serves as a body for me to get feedback on any issues related to the work that I'm doing, as well as an area where we look at policy related to advocacy work. So that might include policy directed at government, like we're currently working on a local transit policy, or policy directed towards the university. Last term, we looked at a policy on differential and relative grade grading. Some examples of discussions that might come to EAC are things like, what was students' experiences with the online term, or the Society Vice President Academics looking for updates on things that WUSA has been up to, or advocacy that might relate to their constituents. So that's a bit about what the committee is about. If anyone has any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them, and I'd second John's encouragement to put your name forward if you're interested.
Thank you, Megan. I want to give those who were nominated an opportunity to confirm that they would like to be nominated. So do you know if Clarissa is on the call with us, Megan?
No, she isn't, but I confirmed that she's interested, and I have a statement to read on her behalf.
Excellent, thank you. Ashkar Goyal, are you okay being nominated for this committee? You're interested? Yeah. Perfect.
Yes, I am.
Ina Wang, are you on the call?
Yes, I am, and I would like to confirm my nomination.
Thanks, Ina. I will allow statements from those who have been nominated as to why you believe council should elect you to the vacant at-large seat. Megan, if you would like, we'll begin with Clarissa, and then Ashkar, you'll have 30 seconds, and Ina, you'll also have 30 seconds. Megan, go ahead.
Sure. So I'd just like to preface my statement with that Clarissa was interested in sitting on Co-op Students Council at the beginning of the governing year, and unfortunately did not win that seat. So I reached out to her to see if she would be interested in sitting on EAC. That being said, here's the statement that she provided to me. She said, I am interested in being part of the Education Advisory Council because I would like to have a say in the university as an international student. I think having diversity on the team is important, and I will represent a really important part of the University of Waterloo, the international students, which is half of students at Waterloo. Not to mention, as a previous teacher, I'd see the importance of providing good quality education for everybody.
Thank you, Megan. We'll move on to Akshar. You have 30 seconds.
Hello, everyone. I'm Akshar Goyal. I'm interested in his position to know how the policies are implemented, how does the discussion over them looks like, and participate in them as well. I also see this as a good opportunity to get more involved in the WUSA committee. I've been a residence life Don where I dealt with student-sensitive issues and kept them confidential. As a Don, I acted as a mentor to facilitate the students' transition into the university. I used to be in Faculty of Arts, and now I'm in Faculty of Math. And I've been an ambassador for both the faculties, where I got to ask incoming first years about their needs and the student life they anticipate they will live in the university, and hence provided helpful responses to prepare them better for any challenges they might face here. I strongly believe I'm passionate about student welfare, and hence being a part of EAC will be a good opportunity to learn more about the university and serve the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Ina, go ahead. You have 30 seconds.
Hi, thank you for after listening to the other nominees, and I actually would like to withdraw my nomination because I think I've reevaluated and I think both Akshar and Clarissa would be great candidates to be on the committee. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ina. I'll withdraw your nomination. John, can you make the change to the form?
Has been done.
Thank you. We'll now have an opportunity to vote to fill the vacancy, the at-large vacancy on EAC. John, is the form ready and in the council teams?
There seems to be something going wrong with it. I'm just going to try and figure out what that is. But it's in the council teams, so just give it a sec.
Okay, thank you. So for those counselors who are on the call, you'll make your way over to the council teams like we normally do when we vote. You'll find the link for a form and you'll vote for the individual, either Larissa or Akshar, who you believe should be filling the vacant at-large seat. John, just give everyone confirmation when they're able to move over to the council teams.
Okay, I just had to change a setting. I'm going to send an updated link. All right, the new link should work.
Okay, thank you, John. If everyone could move over to the council teams to cast your vote, I'll give everybody until 12:28 to vote. And then John, if you could you let me know who has won?
Evelyn, you're sharing your screen. Mike, how many people did you have in attendance? Harleen needs to be added to the teams. Harleen, I'm just going to private message you the link, which I can't seem to do. I will message you on Facebook.
I can try to add, John. I just also want to confirm that Carly is a representative. Carly Benson, you also have access to the council teams?
Yep, I have access.
Excellent, thank you. I'll give everybody until 12:30 just so that we can work out some technical difficulties and make sure that everybody has access.
Mike, I never heard from you. How many people did we have present?
I'm going to ballpark around 37.
Councillors? Or 37? Well, everyone?
Total everyone.
How many councillors?
Okay.
I was just about to say, we need a exact of how many councillors are on the call, because they're the only ones who can vote.
Okay.
Just a reminder to all those present, the chat is for specific communications. Seneca, I will be deleting your comment in the chat if I can do that. I don't think I can. Seneca, delete your comment in the chat.
All right, it looks like we're not getting any more votes, Abby.
Thank you, John. Are you able to?
Yes,
Identify the-
Clarissa.
Thank you. So we motion to fill the blank.
Yes, and Megan has a point.
Megan, go ahead.
Yeah, so I move to fill the blank with Clarissa's name, and I also motion to destroy the ballots, i.e. delete the form. And finally, I'd like to note for all other candidates that there's also the opportunity to sit on EAC as a non-voting member. So I will reach out to both of you, and if you're interested, that's something that we can arrange.
Thank you, Megan. So you're going to need a seconder for both the motion to fill the blank and destroy the ballots?
I'll second both.
Thank you, John. So be it resolved that council elects Clarissa, oh my gosh, Moriera, you get that right? To the vacant at-large seat on the Education Advisory Council. All those opposed? Any abstention? Okay, passes. I guess Megan has motioned to destroy the ballot. John seconds. Any opposition? Any abstention? Okay, passes. The ballots will be destroyed. John, please delete the form. Excellent. Megan, is there anything in addition to the election of at-large members that you would like to add to the report?
There is not. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you, Megan. We'll move on to the report of the Student Publications Regulatory Select Commission. Seneca, go ahead.
God, I'm really bad at not unmuting my mic. Okay, so let me begin by saying perhaps you should amend that to Director of the Commission Velling as opposed to Commissioner Velling, if that makes Megan feel better about the style or the stylization of the title. Fine. I have the pleasure of serving in the Student Publications Regulatory Commission, which was established in order to identify how to protect editorial independence in the student publications on our campus from WUSA, and has been leading consultations with the president's office with our student publications on campus, including Math News, Iron Warrior, and the Imprint, as well as the Environmental Journal and a few others. So as kind of part of this process, I conducted a very thorough historical review, a subset of which is included in my report. I figured including it would be valuable insight for anyone who is interested. It is not necessary reading if you are not interested, and it is rather lengthy reading if you are not interested. Including a little bit on the historical precedent and a previous board of publications that existed before the imprint was incorporated, as well as a summary of the environmental scan conducted of other PSE institutions that informed the policy development, and a summary of consultation and amendments made as a result of that consultation with the editors and publishers of Math News, Imprint, and Iron Warrior. I'm really thankful for their participation and feedback, especially Imprint and Math News, who provided a lot of suggestions for the policy. Math News is comments and amendments, or comments have all been, and concerns have all been reflected and addressed in the amendments. And I'm proud to say that we were able to make amendments to the policy that were agreeable to all the parties. So I look forward to the conversation at PPC and continued consultation to make sure that the policy comes back to council in a format that they find acceptable and with implementation guidelines and understanding of what it means. If there's any questions on the content of my report or the work of the commission, I'm happy to address them at this time. Otherwise, thank you very much, council.
Thank you, Seneca. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you all. We will move on from the reports to special orders. There's a presentation from the Long Range Plan Committee. John, if you could, while I'm giving the presentation, just monitor the chat. I will be sharing my Oh, Cannon? Yes, Cannon, let's motion for a 10-minute break. I will assume privilege motion to adjourn, or not adjourn, but recess for 10 minutes. Everybody please come back at 12:48 p.m. Thank you. That gives me a little bit of time to set up. Thanks, Cannon.
So Abby, just checking, what is the plural of 1 second?
Yeah, I know. My keyboard has been acting up a little bit. So it was supposed to say 30 seconds left, and then the S moved right as I hit enter. So
No, I like it. It's a new movement. We should make
30
English
seconds
more
less.
inclusive and have that so we can do more with the English language.
Time is
I like it.
relative. So 1 second in your frame of reference could be multiple seconds for other people. So plural doesn't really make sense in a relative time system.
Oh boy, trust the nano engineer.
See, this would be a good time to be able to delete comments.
I thought you were going to say delete people, and I was like, wow, thanks.
Oh, it looks like I can delete my own comment,
You
but I can't.
graduated, Seneca. You deleted yourself.
I've been deleted.
Yeah,
We should get Thanos.
Seneca, you didn't see the memes I was sending when you came back for this.
I would love to see them, John.
I've given you a 10-minute break. Do you not want to just walk away from the computer at this point?
They can go look for food.
Everyone just talked over each other, so that's why we have a speaking order.
What is there besides WUSA that's worth doing?
Oh, wow. Yes, Stephanie, go ahead.
Yes, I believe that Commissioner Velling and Deputy Speaker Hunt are currently
Director of the
to their
Commission.
computer. Okay, yes, Director of Commission Velling.
I'm sorry, you were being spoken over. You say I'm something what with my computer?
You're glued to your computer. Also, please, if you have a direct response, please put 2 into the chat. Thank you.
Actually, we're recessed, so deal with it.
Oh my gosh.
Kanan, you're not recognized.
I don't give a shit from you, John.
Kanan, you're not recognized. Don't speak.
Hey, Cannon, I know that we're like, it's a break right now, but we're not swearing.
Oh, okay, fair. Sorry.
Motion to censure Kanan for his vulgarity.
Motion to move it out
Motion
of
to have him
order.
removed from the assembly.
Ooh.
I'm just kidding,
Seconded.
Cannon.
Also MSU delegate, please.
I feel like motioning to have Seneca removed right now.
Do it.
MSU hits too hard, man. Hits too hard.
Stephanie, did you just second my motion to have Seneca removed?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Good to know that you're on my side for when I actually go to do it.
Are we still recording?
Yes.
Abby, on Reddit there's a photo of a cat sitting in a Wusa box. It's beautiful. Did you see it?
I will admit that it's been a very long time since I've been on Reddit, unless someone sends me something. So if you'd like to send me a photo of a cat in a Wusa box, I now wish that that's something that we put on the side where it says I'm not trash, and put you can use it as a box for your cat. That would have been really fun. Thank you, Stephanie.
Beautiful. It's beautiful. Please look at it.
I can put it into Imgur and send a link in the chat as a wholesome picture of a Wusa box, if that's permitted.
I was just gonna ask if that would be okay because I want to see this picture of the cat too.
I would say because we are not using the chat to share cat photos, if you would like to share it in the council teams, by all means.
Good solution. Thank you, Abby.
You're welcome.
But what if the at-large members need to see the cat?
I know we all think it's very funny, but I would like to not be posting Imgur links to cat photos in the official chat.
Okay.
So if the at-large member requests a link to this cat photo, you can send it to them in an email.
Okay, will do. Thank you, Abby.
You're welcome.
Stephanie, are you sure it was not your cat?
Can we
My
alternatively,
cat's asleep right now.
can we alternatively have a mailing list for Wusa cat pox pictures?
You would like a mailing list specifically for cat photos in Wusa boxes?
As many as I can.
I would subscribe.
You
I
can
would
go to
100% subscribe.
request.feds.ca and you can ask IT to create one. Anyone can do that.
I'm really regretting telling everyone that they can take a 10-minute break.
It's actually request.wusa.ca, Seneca.
Actually, request.wusa.ca is a forward that redirects because it's an alias and the back end is probably still on feds.ca.
It's actually still on feds.ca.
Sorry, I just know a thing or two about operations, that's all.
Well, that's interesting because I tried to get to feds.ca for something and I got this page does not exist, and I replaced feds with Wusa and I got what I was trying to get to. So that's frustrating.
John, are you saying we're replacing feds with Wusa now?
It can never be replaced.
in the next few minutes until like 12:48, how about everyone just puts their microphones on mute and actually steps away from their computer for a little bit?
Gotta take a second to grab water. You know what they say, hydrate or dihydrate.
I didn't know that they said that, but I'm very glad I know that they say that.
I got your back, Abby.
What's dihydrate? Oh, never mind.
Is Evelyn still on the call? I assume, because I can still see the screen.
Hi, I'm here.
Hi, Evelyn. I'm going to be sharing my screen
Okay.
for the presentation. And I'm going to try to get that all set up now.
Sure, sounds good.
Would you or John be able to just send the link to the live notes again in the chat, just in case somebody wants to take a look through and see where we are in the agenda?
Sounds good.
Great, thank you.
Oh, John beat me to it.
Everybody can see how I'm sharing the screen?
Yep.
Yes, we can, Abby. Thank you.
Ah, excellent. I know we have a minute left, but I just want to make sure we're all set up.
Abby, I just took over your screen.
John, can you not, or not John, Cannon, can you not do that?
No, that was by mistake. I clicked by mistake, so
Okay.
you have to probably do it again.
Okay. Please do not request control. I'm not sure how to make sure that you can't do that, but please do not.
It's 12:48. Let's do it.
All right. We'll come back from the break. It's 12:48 p.m. I'm going to begin the presentation from the Strategic and Long Range Plan Committee, just going over some of the draft key elements and strategic directions we're proposing so far. How do I? Can everyone see that do you see overview on your screen right now?
Yep.
We do.
Okay, cool. Because I'm just going to control it from within Teams to make it a little easier so I don't have to jump back and forth. So today I'm just going to quickly go over the 2019-2020 long range plan process, which has taken place so far, a review of the draft key elements and some next steps and consultations. So really driving home what exactly I'm going to be needing from counselors over the next month as we work to continue to draft the long range plan. So just to give you an idea of the timeline, so in fall 2019 and winter 2020, we went through a consultation process, which included a survey that went out to at-large members, as well as some consultation with constituency societies. We went to their councils to learn more about what they think is the direction of WUSA. The committee also reviewed a strategic directions based on the survey results, which the spring 2020 committee also reviewed and condensed. In spring 2020, we reviewed the previous committee's work led by the former president, Michael Boschman. We did an organizational SWOT analysis of all departments within WUSA. We created the 2020-2021 annual plan based on what we thought these strategic directions might be. And in fall 2020, we are going to be doing continued consultation on the long-range plan draft and preparing the final draft for approval from our council and the board. So the key elements that we have so far, these will be the headings for the different long-range plan, pillars. We have approaches to advocacy, responsible governance that meets your needs, promoting belonging and campus engagement, operations, student businesses and student spaces, and financial solvency and responsibility. So for this first bit, approaches to advocacy, we will represent undergraduate students. We will listen to and consult our members and use what we hear, supported by evidence-based research, to present the University of Waterloo and all levels of government proposals to make students' lives better. The way that I've done this is I have the key element and then some strategic directions. So don't feel like you need to memorize these or write them down. I will be sending a rough draft for comment around to council, but this will just give you an idea of some of the areas that we are looking at. So working with our external advocacy partners is part of the strategic direction, collaborating with students and student groups and leaders across our campus, and creating data-driven advocacy priorities and actually communicating those to our student population. Some additional strategic directions on this pillar would be to raise the profile of WUSA in post-secondary education environment and advocate proactively and effectively to our government. The next pillar is responsible governance that meets your needs. So effective and responsible governance is key to WUSA's operations and democratic process. WUSA strives to create accessible governance for all members, especially student leaders who are invested in WUSA's work. So some of the ways that we're proposing we do that would be to review our governance structure and guarantee that our members can be informed in how WUSA makes democratic decisions. Invest in our elections and referenda, supporting a free and independent press on our campus, participating in mentorship across our organization to allow students to move up in our more senior leadership roles, and engage and create a culture of collaboration with our constituency societies and affiliated and federated institutions, as well as our satellite campuses. The third pillar is promotion of belonging and campus engagement. So we will work to make students feel more included, whether classes are on campus or not. We commit to delivering a quality student experience through improving and expanding our own offerings to reach a wide range of members. So some of the ways we'll do that, identify and address barriers for recruitment, retention, and development of full and part-time staff and senior leadership. That also includes like our clubs, societies, services, board of directors, students council, particularly focusing on underrepresented groups. We will regularly review student engagement and volunteer retention strategies. Strengthen our reliance on data for decision making on student life and campus culture, increase our services to better serve our international students, and expand our network through collaboration with alumni to better support student projects and involvement in campus life. The next pillar is operations, student businesses, and student spaces. So this focuses more on we will work to make sure our student services align with what students want and need on campus, and we'll run our commercial operations on a not-for-profit basis. We will continue to improve our food offerings and will listen to students about what other services they want us to provide. We will continue administration of the largest area of student space on campus and improve space through our new capital fund. So some of the ways we're aiming to do this, investigate space agreements across campus to guarantee student management, increase our business operations, our offerings, locations, venues across campus, increase competition on campus between business ventures to ensure affordability for our students, invest in student roles throughout our organization, and expand our presence across main campus, the satellite campuses and affiliate colleges. We will focus on a member loyalty program to benefit all participating students, negotiate and reclaim student facilities for affordable, safe social activities and student group use, and continue to invest in holistic capital renewal and improvement across WUSA and our societies. The last is financial solvency and responsibility. So this is actively investing in growth and strive to make our services more affordable or remain affordable for students and be able to deliver all the services that students are expecting of us, while also supporting our constituency societies through the effects of COVID-19 on their society fees and operations. Our next steps for the committee on these draft changes will be to allow council to review the text and provide any comments in the 72 hours following the September 13th council meeting. I will be sending council reminders to ensure that everyone has an appropriate opportunity to provide their feedback. The board will also be reviewing the draft key elements and be providing comments in advance of the next meeting. The Strategic and Long Range Plan Committee will review all the feedback we've received and make additional changes and continue the drafting process. And then council will review the latest draft at the October 4th meeting. Hopefully that will be the final draft and make a decision to accept the final document or extend the drafting deadline to allow the committee more opportunity to incorporate that feedback. So what exactly am I expecting from you as counselors? Either provide some verbal comments answering the question, what do you believe is missing from the key elements of the long range plan? And then review the document sent following the September 13th meeting within 72 hours. And then at the October 4th meeting, review and make a decision about the final document. I'll now, we have 10 minutes. I will now take any comments answering the question specifically, what do you believe is missing from the key elements? So if I go back to the key elements, is there anything that you do not see reflected here that you would like the committee to take into consideration while drafting? So I'll open up the floor now and we have 10 minutes to have a discussion. I don't see anybody in the chat with any comments on what is missing from these key elements. So I'll take this back to the committee and continue to look into our draft strategic directions. Oh, Edward, go ahead.
Hi, I think this is likely included underneath promoting belonging campus engagement, but I didn't see it in the slide specifically. I'm wondering if it's included in the plan to reach out, like to increase outreach to groups on campus that have historically not taken advantage of WUSA services or are not have not been as engaged. Like for example, some engineering students who
traditionally just stay away from student governance and don't actually take advantage of everything? Is that been included in the plan?
In my opinion, a lot of it is covered in our support for increasing the importance of elections and referenda. So really making sure that we're engaging and promoting our democratic process. And I think it's also covered in the times that we mention working with our societies and satellite campuses to better that relationship, to increase promotion in groups that in the past may not have necessarily engaged with WUSA in the way that we would like.
Thank you.
Thank you, Edward. I'll do one last call for any questions or comments. Okay, Stephanie, go ahead.
Hi, I'm wondering if perhaps like as a key element or at least somewhere within the strategic plan, we acknowledge the fact that like we can use like endowment funds to leverage advancement, building alumni bridges and other such investment things, because I see that you acknowledge the capital plan within it, but like our endowments, specifically like SLEF, are typically underutilized, and that's been like a systemic problem for quite a few years, except it was more used last year. So I'm wondering if that could be something that gets incorporated.
The intention of the line about engagement with alumni to support student projects, that might be a more vague way of saying that we would like them to donate to our student funds to support student projects, but we can make some of the language a little more clear to say that that's actually what we mean.
Yeah, that would be good. Having it stated more explicitly would probably be really helpful, and remembering that we do have that resource available to us and we should be leveraging it. So, yeah.
Thank you, Stephanie.
William Osmond, troglodyte.
Matthew, you are unmuted, just so you're aware. I'll do one last final call. If there are no more questions and comments, we will move on to our general orders. Thank you, everybody, for allowing me to. Oh, okay. Stephanie, go ahead.
Sorry. Can I also just ask, because I imagine that this does get covered with the promoting belonging, campus engagement, and the student spaces portion, but explicitly state that like accessibility is an important facet of WUSA, and that we're going to dedicate some resources, or at least like acknowledge that it's something that we should be like working towards.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'll make sure that is included. I'll also remind counselors that you will have an opportunity to provide, I guess, as many comments as you would like to the document that I will be circulating immediately after this meeting. So if there's something that you would like me to know, that is definitely a place where you can provide those comments to myself, which will be passed on to the committee. I'd like to thank everyone again for allowing me to go through this presentation and for your comments and questions on this report. I will now move on to our general orders. And we'll move to item 7.1, the tuition increase stance. submitted by Vice President Education Town and Councillor Sharma. Megan, would you like to speak to this item?
Sure. So just to start out, I have a small clerical change to this one as well. We'd like to switch the position of the second and third whereas statements just to make it more clear that we're talking about students should have predictability in their tuition and should not be subject to tuition increases at the fault of the university. Excuse me. And then just to provide a little more context, I reported on some unusual tuition increases at the last council meeting. And following that, Councillor Sharma reached out and asked to see some more dedicated advocacy on this topic. So we submitted this motion, and I've asked my Associate Vice President Academic to begin drafting a policy or a stance to bring to council in the near future.
I believe I'm taking Councillor Sharma as a seconder for this motion. Is that correct?
Yep.
Great. Would you like to speak, Kenan?
Yeah, I can give a bit more perspective from what Megan did. So after seeing on Reddit, like a bunch of people complaining about increases in the tuition, like I know they reached out to Megan and Megan was able to help them figure out why the increases were there. And then this happened to me. So I had my fee changed 3 times this term after I'd already paid it. And the last time they changed it, it was after the fee arrange deadline. So I think it's kind of unfair for the university because if they can't deal with their systems to calculate the fee correctly initially, that they can just randomly change it after the deadline is there or after the fee bill has been posted. Because people make decisions about their financial, like where they're going to live, how much rent they can pay based on how much money they're going to have after paying their tuition. And if the university can randomly change it after people have made those plans, it can affect them really in an adverse way, and especially during COVID because everyone's strapped for cash. So I think this is something WUSA should like focus on, because if it was any other organization and if they are making a mistake in their system, it should not be the consumer who has to pay the price. It should be the person. It should be the organization that's making that mistake. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Megan and Kenan. Are there any questions on this motion? Ben, are you able to mute yourself? Okay, I don't see any questions or comments in the chat. So I'm going to bring this motion to a vote on the tuition increase stance. So I'll read it for council. Whereas at the August 23rd council meeting, the Vice President of Education reported on atypical tuition increases caused by miscalculation in the tuition system for co-op students. And whereas students should have predictability in their tuition, should not be. I'll read this again. Whereas students should have predictability in their tuition and should not be subject to tuition increases at the fault of the university. And whereas students may see changes in their tuition as a result of making changes to their courses, then be it resolved that council mandates the Vice President Education or designate to develop an appropriate policy stance on the issue, and be it further resolved that council mandates the Vice President Education or designate to continue advocacy on this issue. Megan is the mover, Kenan is the seconder. All those in opposition. All those abstaining. Motion passes. We will now move on to new business. So any counselor may raise any item of concern during new business. Oh, John, you're just getting ready for new business?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just going to quickly read this out for the at-large members and for counselors as a reminder. Any counselor may raise any item of concern during new business by proposing a motion or topic of discussion. A 2/3 majority vote is required for consideration of an item to proceed. John, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just bringing this item up so that we can actually fill the vacant seats on the committee we created. I meant to bring it up as a motion arising, but I forgot. So that's for 2 voting members of Students' Council and 2 students at large. I know we have some at-large students present, or I hope we hung on to them for the duration of the meeting, but I'd like to bring that up so we can get those seats filled, or decide how they'll be filled.
So to do that, I'm going to have a 2/3 majority to.
Can I have a seconder first?
Right. Are you moving it, John?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll second. Okay. So the item we're bringing forward is election of at-large members and counselors to the ad hoc committee on student safety. I'm just going to say all those opposed to bringing this up in new business. Any abstention? Cool. So John, I guess we'll move forward with the election of the 2 counselors and 2 at-large members to the ad hoc committee on student safety. We're going to open up the election similar to previous elections, but I'll allow John to speak first.
Yeah, my suggestion is that we know we have all the councillors here, so we could as well just fill the councillors now and then delegate the filling of the at-large students to some other body, be it executives or to COPS, since COPS created this committee.
So you're proposing delegating election of the at-large members to either COPS or the executive, most likely the president, I would assume, to fill the at-large seats?
Well, Megan is going to be chairing the committee, so I would suggest Megan, not president, but yeah.
Correct. Megan would make more sense. I don't know if there's any comments from councillors, if we would be able to delegate the at-large elections to either COPS or the chair of the committee, Megan, to fill the at-large seats. I know that Delaney has a comment. I'm not sure if it's on the at-large selection or if it's something else, but Delaney, I'll allow you to speak.
Thanks, Abby. Yeah, it was just for the selection of a whole. Now that this has been approved, I think it would be nice to have it filled before next council, but I just wanted to confirm that we weren't actually electing at-large members at this council.
So that's the conversation that John and I are just bringing up right now. If the at-large members can be delegated to either the next meeting of the Committee of Presidents or the Vice President Education to fill those seats. But if you're specifically speaking to the representatives, Delaney will fill those at the COPS meeting because the representatives are appointed by the societies. So okay. We'll see those there, and then it'll be included in the Committee of Presidents report at the October 4th meeting.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Of course. Speaker or John, go ahead.
With regard to the society representatives, my interpretation would be that the president by default would fill it or select a designate. That would be my assumption.
That's also my assumption, John, which is why at the next Committee of Presidents meeting, the society presidents will select their representative. So, John, are we able to move forward with the election of the 2 counselors to the Ad hoc
Yeah.
Committee on Student Safety?
Yep. Once nobody has an issue with, I guess I would move to allow the Vice President Education fill the 2 student at large seats.
Sure, I'll second that.
I'll start typing an actual motion.
Thank you. While John is typing a motion, are there any counselors who would like to be nominated to fill the seats on the Ad hoc Committee on Student Safety? If you would like to be nominated, please either put your name or the name of the counselor you would like to nominate in the chat. Cannon, go ahead.
Abby was wondering if you could talk about what kind of like the requirements of the position will be, like how much time per week or per month will the people appointed to this committee have to dedicate towards this?
I may allow Megan to speak a little bit more, but my understanding is that the committee will, at their first meeting, determine their set meeting dates and have a conversation about workload. But again, I'll leave that to Megan as the chair of the committee.
Yeah, I would say that meetings will likely be an hour and a half in duration every 3 weeks. And then outside of meetings, we would be looking for a relatively light workload, something like 1 to 4 hours in between meetings in terms of doing reading, consultation, and research to prepare for the meetings.
Okay, I think I have crafted a motion.
Excellent. I'll first ask for nominees for the counselor seats on this committee. Tahir, are you nominating yourself?
Actually, Abby, I had a question. I was wondering if, because we have our first like SOFS council meeting in a week or so, would I be able to, like, after, because this was one of the agenda items, was this council or this committee, would I be able to, like, nominate someone from my executive team to act as a representative if they were interested?
Yeah, we can do that at the next COPS meeting. You can bring that forward either to me via email or as part of our business at the next meeting.
Okay, thanks. So to answer your question, right now I wouldn't be nominating myself, but I'll give you a better answer after our first meeting. Thanks.
Excellent, thank you. Are there any counselors who would like to be nominated to fill the counselor seats on the Ad hoc Committee on Student Safety? John, go ahead.
I nominate Stephanie.
Stephanie, do you accept the nomination?
I think that was
Sure.
Okay, so our first nominee is Stephanie. Are there any other counselors who would like to nominate themselves or another counselor to fill the council seats on this committee? Stephanie, go ahead.
I would like to nominate Victoria Shi.
As it stands right now, Stephanie, Victoria being the president of the Environment Student Society, she would have a seat unless she's planning on appointing a representative. Is Victoria on the call right now?
If that is the case, my bad.
No, that's okay. I just want to confirm with her that she's planning on appointing a representative. Victoria, are you on the call? I think I see Victoria on the call.
She might have stepped away for a moment. I do know she was listening to the call earlier.
Okay. I just want to confirm with her that she accepts her nomination and that she's planning on appointing a representative. Are there any other counselors who would like to nominate themselves or others before we fill these vacancies?
I would like to nominate Angela Souza.
I will decline my nomination, but thank you though.
Thank you, Angela. Edward, go ahead.
I would like to nominate Evelyn.
Evelyn, do you accept the nomination?
Yep.
Excellent. Cannon and then Stephanie. And then Megan. Okay, Stephanie and then Megan.
I'd like to nominate Catherine Dong.
Catherine, do you accept the nomination?
No, I'm going to have to reject it this time, but thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Megan, go ahead.
I would just like to make a note for any at-large students who are listening and are interested in being a part of this committee. Please send me an email at vped@wusa.ca and I'll be sure to consider you in my selection of at-large candidates.
So John, just confirming, we have Stephanie and Evelyn as nominees to fill the 2 blanks. I'm going to do one last call and then motion to fill the blanks with Stephanie and Evelyn's name as acclaimed counselors to fill the seats. Iman, go ahead.
I'd like to nominate myself.
Oh, excellent. All right, we have an election. Chanel, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to ask if you could talk a bit about what the duties would entail, but it's okay.
Megan, well, Chanel, there is a bit of information available in the Committee of Presidents report. I don't know if Megan has any additional information yet, as the committee has not met to have a conversation about what tasks will be expected. Chanel, are you considering nominating yourself?
It's okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so seeing no more nominations in the chat, Stephanie, Evelyn, and Iman will go up for election. We'll do it very similar to the election we had for EAC earlier today. John will create a form, post that form in the council teams, and then we will fill the blanks with the top 2 winners of that poll.
All right, I've sent the form. I've done it slightly differently. I've done it from my personal office account, not the speaker account, and I have restricted it to only members of the organization. I don't know if that's going to be members of the University of Waterloo or members of WUSA. So if anyone has a problem voting, please direct message me, either my personal or speaker. I will record your vote and I will delete your message, if that's okay with everyone.
Thank you, John. Are people able to move over to the council teams at the moment?
Sorry, Abby, I just have a question about voting.
Sure.
I'm wondering if it would be possible for each of the nominees to just kind of introduce themselves. I just personally am not really familiar with everyone, so don't feel comfortable voting.
Oh, excellent. Thank you, Megan. Sometimes in the
Evelyn, you're sharing your screen. Sorry.
Sometimes in the movement, trying to get the form set up and coordinate, some of the process gets lost. So thank you, Megan. I believe Megan has a point of order.
That's what I was going to say as well.
Okay, thank you, Megan. So yes, I'll allow each nominee to have 30 seconds to explain why they believe they should be filling the councillor seat on this committee. I'll begin with Stephanie, and then we'll go Evelyn, and then Iman. So Stephanie, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Stephanie, and I'm one of the environment counselors. So I guess, like, if you're considering me for this seat, like I can offer my expertise regarding kind of accessibility, but also with regards to responses to mental health situations. I've known a lot of folks, and I myself have had campus police called on me because of crises, and the way in which that's been handled, I think, was not the best way that it could. I will admit that I do not have a lot of knowledge regarding sexual assault and sexual violence on campus regarding those things. So I guess keep in mind, I guess, which particular areas you would like addressed by the counselor seat. Yeah, John put my name forth, so I'd be happy to provide my expertise. But if other folks have a greater interest and whatnot, then I would strongly encourage you to vote for them.
Thank you, Stephanie. Evelyn, go ahead.
All right. Hello, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. My name is Evelyn. I'm one of the engineering counselors. I personally think that this committee definitely is going to be very important because, as mentioned earlier from Stephanie, even though I don't have very much, actually, as much expertise or knowledge of this matter, this is something I am very much interested in, and I think is really important towards the students because it's important for you to be able to get your education in a safe and comfortable environment. So in that case, I would be very much interested in sitting in on this committee, despite not having the experience or knowledge equipped as other people may have. But yeah, so I guess that's just kind of why I'm going for this position, because I am interested and I believe it is important. So yeah.
Thank you, Evelyn. Iman, go ahead.
Hi. So sorry, my name is pronounced Eamon. I wanted to put myself forward because I don't feel like I participate in council enough, and I thought it would be a nice chance since I do have a bit of experience in this field. So I've worked with students with disabilities a lot, and some of these. Some of the things that this committee will touch on are sometimes overlooked in perspectives for students with disabilities. I also have worked with certain groups of students who've had sexual assault cases and things like that, especially students who don't really feel like they have a voice. So I thought that I had some experience in the field and that I could offer some help. And also, I feel like a lot of I haven't participated enough, and I think that I'd be able to give more of my time to this committee.
Thank you all. John, how is the form?
All right. 2 people had voted already, so I deleted the old form and I have sent a new link. And if those persons who had already voted could just re-vote, please.
Excellent. So everybody, please head over to the council Teams channel to cast your vote.
Can I just ask for clarification again for how to vote for the 2 people?
You can't vote for 2 people. Oh, I see. I guess the people with the top 2 numbers of votes would be accepted unless anybody has an issue with that. I can redo the form because I know I made a mistake. I should have done 2 options. So please let me know if council would prefer that I redo the form.
I think it is better to redo it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it should work if I just do, please select your first choice, please select your second choice, right? Right?
Yeah, that should work, John.
All right, part 3. Oh.
I'm sorry, John. So do we have to vote again if we already voted?
That's right.
Cool.
And if we want to abstain, we just leave the thing blank, correct?
Yeah, I didn't put anything as required, so it should hopefully let you do that. So I'm gonna have to chuck these responses into Excel and process them, aren't I?
I think, John, if someone gets more than 50% on the select your first choice, no, yeah, you're definitely gonna have to process them. Never mind.
I think Mike's response would have been, Mike's private message to me would have been much easier. Mike, I need to take your take part of your brain. His suggestion was Stephanie and Evelyn, Evelyn and Iman, Stephanie and Iman. But next time, Mike, next time I'll think like you. Edward, I see your message now. What was your issue?
It was just with the voting. It's taken care of now.
All right, I don't seem to be getting any more responses. Should I start dealing with them?
Yes, please, John.
All right.
Would you like us to take like maybe a 5-minute break while you?
Sure.
Sure.
Hopefully it doesn't take 5 minutes. It's my hope.
So everybody, we're gonna take a 5-minute break. If everybody could come back here at, what's that, 1:42 p.m. So just get up, stretch, grab a glass of water, and John will process the voting.
That means sit here and do work for my other not-for-profit organization, right?
No, Megan, that means you have to stare at the screen until we all come back.
Oh, I got confused.
That's just you though, and any other executive on the call. Everyone else can get up and get water.
Okay, gotcha.
Thank you, council, for your time. I'm going to go at this point. Bye.
Bye, Sonika.
Okay, I have the results. I know
So
where.
I told everybody to come back in 2 more minutes. John, do you want to just send me the results?
Sure.
Private message. And then I can take a look and then we'll motion to fill the blanks.
Abby,
Yes, Cannon?
this is a question about conflict of interest forms.
Yes.
Confirm, do I need to update mine? Like in my formality, but I'm a counselor for MathSoc. But do I need to update it if I become the speaker now, or is that the same thing?
The speaker is on the management board, right? So you probably have to update it.
I'm a non-voting member.
I think still it would be best to.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. So yes, if you could, any changes to your extracurriculars should be updated on your conflict of interest form. I guess I'll just also say that as a reminder to all counselors on the call. If you have any changes to your conflict of interest form, please keep them up to date and send them to speaker@woosa.ca. Okay, it is 1:42, so we should all be coming back. We'll resume 1:42 p.m. We have the results. We will be filling the blanks with Eamon and Stephanie. So I guess I'll motion to fill the blanks. Can I get a seconder?
Second.
Thank you, Cannon. John, you'd like to speak?
Yeah, if anybody would like to know what happened with the voting process, they're free to ask that, but you don't have to. You can just accept this.
Excellent. So all those in opposition? All those in abstention? Motion passes. We'll fill the blanks with Stephanie and Eamon. Cannon motions to destroy the ballots. I will second. All those in opposition? Sorry, Stephanie, would you like to speak?
Sorry, you mispronounced Eamon's name.
Oh, I thought I said amen.
No, you said Eamon.
Ah, thank you for the correction. So motion to destroy the ballots, I've seconded. All those in opposition? Any abstention? Excellent. John, please delete the form and the Excel spreadsheet that you've exported. Great. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, it's all gone.
Good. So we'll move on to other new business. Are there any other items of new business that anybody would like to bring up at this time? Okay, excellent. I'm not seeing anything in the chat for any items of new business, so we'll move on to announcements. any counselor may make an announcement at this time. I guess I will start by saying that I will be sending the draft of the long-range plan document for your comment immediately following this meeting. And then you'll have 72 hours to make those comments. If you do have any questions and you would like to set up a time to quickly chat, please just let me know via email, and then we can set up a time together. I believe that's all the announcements that I have, just to make that quick reminder. John, go ahead.
Sure. Mike has just asked if we could remind everyone that students can buy the GRT pass on member.wulsa.ca until September 20th. In other news, at Wulsa Council on Twitter is back, so feel free to go follow us. I like posting memes, so I also post reminders for meetings, etc. And hopefully we will have somebody monitoring this actively.
Thank you, John. Stephanie, go ahead.
Sorry, this is a question for John. Where did it go originally?
You'd have to ask Twitter, but I do believe it went into the somewhere called the cyberspace. I don't know. It got lost between cyberspace and the interwebs, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Are there any other announcements you'd like to make before we adjourn? Last call. Okay, I don't see anything in the chat, so I will adjourn this meeting at 1:48 p.m. Thank you, everybody. Have a fantastic rest of your week.
Bye, folks.
Bye, everybody. Yeet.
Good luck this semester. Take care, everyone.
Have a good rest of your day.